There's a kind of pain we don't talk about. The pain of staying. Not because it's working, but because you don't know how to leave. You tell yourself it's love. You tell yourself loyalty matters. You tell yourself they just need more time. That if you're patient enough, gentle enough, quiet enough, they'll finally see your worth. But here's the truth. Loyalty is beautiful until it becomes self-betrayal. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And sometimes, that unconscious belief is this: I must earn love by suffering. Where did that come from? Maybe your childhood. Maybe your first relationship. Maybe a parent who only gave affection when you performed. Maybe a love that only lasted when you were perfect. So you learned, love means giving everything. Even when it hurts. Even when they stop showing up. Even when your heart screams leave and your mind whispers stay. You became the fixer. The forgiver. The one who never gives up. Even when the relationship already has. And the world praises you for it. You're so strong. You have such a big heart. You always see the best in people. But late at night, when it's quiet, you don't feel strong. You feel invisible. Unseen. Used. Exhausted. Let me tell you about Rachel. She dated someone for 5 years. In year 1, they were in love. In year 2, things changed. He stopped listening. Stopped calling. Started blaming her for everything. But Rachel stayed. She said, "He's just going through something." She said, "Relationships are hard work." She said, "If I leave now, what was the point of all those years?" So she gave more. Lost sleep to talk him through his moods. Skipped work to save his from falling apart. Let go of her own dreams just to stay close. She told herself, that's what love is. But deep down, she wasn't in love. She was in fear. Fear of starting over. Fear of being alone. Fear of being called selfish. Until one night, she had a panic attack. Not because something happened, but because nothing changed. And in that moment, she realized, I'm loyal to someone who's not even loyal to me. That's when the healing began. Because sometimes, it's not about who they are. It's about who you're becoming just to keep them. You start shrinking. You start silencing yourself. You start abandoning your needs. And here's the part that hurts most. You know it's not working. But the thought of leaving feels like failure. So you stay. And stay. And stay. But every time you stay in something that's not right, you teach yourself that your peace doesn't matter. You train your nervous system to tolerate anxiety. You normalize emotional absence. Until numbness becomes your new normal. This isn't love. It's survival. It's coping. It's a trauma pattern dressed in loyalty. And here's the truth. You can't heal in the same environment that broke you. You can't find clarity when you're constantly questioning your worth. You can't grow while you're always walking on eggshells. Leaving doesn't make you weak. It makes you honest. With yourself. With your heart. With your truth. Because the longer you stay in what no longer serves you, the more you delay what's trying to find you. You're not broken for wanting to be loved. But you are hurting because you forgot you're allowed to love yourself too. Real love doesn't ask you to disappear. It doesn't punish you for having needs. It doesn't make you prove your worth daily. So if you're in something that constantly drains you, ask yourself this: am I being loyal to them? Or am I abandoning me? Because the version of you that's tired, anxious, second-guessing everything, they don't need another apology. They need permission to walk away, to start over, to choose peace over potential. Loyalty is a beautiful thing. But never forget, you are allowed to be loyal to yourself too. That's not selfish. That's healing. You say you're stuck. You say you don't know why you can't move on. But here's the truth. You're not stuck. You're just attached. Attached to what it could have been. Attached to the moments when it felt right. Attached to the hope that they'll finally change. You confuse attachment with love, but they're not the same. Love is open. Love breathes. Love sees you. Attachment is tight. It clings. It survives even in pain. The mind will tell you, they weren't always like this. And that's true. But nostalgia is not reality. Memory is not a reason to stay. Your nervous system got used to the chaos. Your body learned to call the highs and lows home. Now peace feels boring. And instability feels like passion. This is not love. This is emotional survival. Let's talk about Daniel. He dated someone who was wildly inconsistent. One day she adored him. The next she disappeared. She'd come back with apologies and warmth, then vanish again. Daniel knew it wasn't working. His friends told him to leave. Even his therapist gently pointed it out. But every time she reached out, his heart jumped. Hope returned. This time it'll be different, he told himself. She never changed. But his mind kept looping the early days. That first trip, that one conversation, that amazing night. He wasn't in love with her. He was in love with the idea of her. The version he built in his head. The one that didn't exist anymore, or maybe never did. That's what attachment does. It keeps you chained to what was. It creates emotional debt. I've already given so much. I can't leave now. But ask yourself, if you met them today, as they are now, would you still choose them? If the answer is no, then you're not in love. You're in fear. Fear of starting over. Fear of being alone. Fear of losing the version of yourself that existed in that relationship. But here's the thing, you're already losing yourself by staying. Attachment isn't always about the person. It's about who you believe you are with them. Sometimes we hold on, because we're afraid of who we'll be without them. But you are not that relationship. You are not that dynamic. You are not their version of you. Letting go isn't about cutting someone off harshly. It's about releasing the fantasy. It's about stepping out of the loop. The same fight. The same tears. The same almosts. The same if-onlys. You can't heal while you're still hoping they become someone they've never been. You're waiting for closure. But closure doesn't come from them. It comes when you realize you've been closing in on yourself, just to keep someone else comfortable. You don't need to hate them. You don't need to villainize them. You just need to see the truth. And the truth is, you're giving them chances they wouldn't give you. You're loving them more than you love your own peace. You're sacrificing your boundaries for breadcrumbs. Love doesn't look like emotional starvation. Love doesn't feel like waiting for a text that never comes, or rehearsing conversations in your head every night. You are not hard to love. You are not too much. You are just with someone who doesn't know how to receive real love. And deep down, you've known that for a while. But the heart holds on, even when the mind knows better. That's okay. You're not weak. You're human. You believed in someone. You saw potential. You tried. That matters. But now it's time to ask, are you willing to keep living on potential? Or are you ready to choose what's real? Letting go doesn't mean the love wasn't real. It means you're no longer willing to hurt yourself for it. And no, you're not heartless. You're healing. You're learning to choose yourself, not because you stopped caring, but because you finally realized you deserve to be chosen too. You're not stuck. You're just attached. But attachments can be untied. Gently. Slowly. With love. And once you do, you'll feel it. Relief. Peace. Space. Not the kind of space that hurts, but the kind that breathes. You're not stuck. You're just growing. And it's okay to outgrow someone who stopped growing with you. Sometimes you don't stay because it's still good. You stay because you're still hoping. Hoping they'll change. Hoping they'll see your worth. Hoping that love will finally be enough. But hope, when misused, becomes a prison. It becomes the excuse for why you're still there. Still trying. Still explaining. Still shrinking. You tell yourself it's loyalty. But really it's fear. Fear of letting go. Fear of starting over. Fear of being alone. You hold on because you believe the pain means something. That the struggle must be worth it. That maybe, just maybe, things will go back to how they used to be. But here's the truth. If someone needs to lose you to realize your value, they were never truly seeing you in the first place. Love doesn't require constant proving. Real connection doesn't need to be earned through suffering. And staying in hope, when all evidence says it's over, is how you abandon yourself. Let me tell you about Hana. She was with someone for 4 years. He was charming, funny, exciting, but also inconsistent, unavailable, emotionally distant. He'd disappear for days, come back with excuses, say all the right things when she tried to leave. He knew exactly what to say to keep her hoping. I'm just going through something. You're the only one who gets me. I don't want to lose you. And Hana, she believed him. She stayed through broken promises. She made excuses for him to her friends. She started cutting parts of herself off. Stopped talking about her needs. Stopped asking for clarity. Stopped expecting more. Every time she thought of leaving, she remembered how he used to be. The beginning, the magic, the dream. And she waited for that version of him to come back. But he never did, because that version was never real. It was a mask, a performance, a hook. It took Hana years to realize she wasn't in love with who he was. She was in love with the potential, with the version of him she kept building in her mind. And that's the trap. You fall in love with what could be. You stay for the story you keep telling yourself, not for the reality you're actually living in. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Unconscious hope is like that. It directs your decisions, makes you stay longer than you should, makes you accept less than you deserve, and you call it love. But it's not love. It's attachment. It's fear. It's a deep belief that maybe if you just love harder, they'll finally choose you. But here's what's real. You shouldn't have to lose yourself to be loved. You shouldn't have to wait years for someone to treat you right. You shouldn't have to keep shrinking so they can grow. When love is right, it flows. It feels safe. It feels consistent. You don't have to keep guessing. You don't have to keep fixing. You don't have to keep hurting. So ask yourself, what are you really holding on to? The person or the idea? Are you staying because you're loved or because you're afraid of being unloved? Letting go isn't giving up. It's waking up. Waking up to the reality that you deserve peace, that you deserve reciprocity, that you deserve to stop bleeding for someone who won't even notice the wound. Hana eventually left, not in anger, but in clarity. She looked around at her life and saw how much of herself she had given away. And she whispered, "Enough." That moment, quiet, firm, terrifying, was the beginning of her return. Back to herself, back to self-trust, back to reality. She stopped hoping and started healing. And sometimes that's the bravest thing you can do. Because the truth is, the longer you stay in false hope, the further you drift from your own healing. Hope is beautiful, but it should never cost you your dignity. You are not stuck. You are just afraid to let go. And that's okay. But know this, every day you choose yourself over illusion, you are breaking free. You are making the unconscious conscious. You are rewriting the story. And maybe, just maybe, That's the love story that matters most. Letting go isn't just about walking away. It's about mourning. Not just the person, but the story, the hope, the version of the relationship that only existed in your mind. That's the part that breaks you. Not the loss of them, but the loss of what you thought it could be, what you tried to make it into, what you kept believing it was even when it wasn't. You have to grieve the potential. And that's the hard part, because potential feels like a promise. And when it dies, feels like betrayal. Maybe you believed it would grow. Maybe you thought they'd finally understand you. Maybe you saw flashes of change and told yourself, just a little longer, just a little more love, just one more chance. But the relationship stayed the same. Or worse, it got heavier, colder, more disconnected. And still, you stayed. Because grief is hard. But illusion felt safer than reality. You wanted to believe. And no one wants to admit, I was wrong about what we could be. No one wants to face the shame that comes with wasted time, or the heartbreak of waking up alone, again, in a relationship that's still together. Let me tell you about Eli. He had been with his partner for 6 years. From the outside it looked stable, trips, photos, dinner parties. But inside, loneliness, emotional starvation, endless conversations that led nowhere, requests that were heard but never acted on. Eli stayed because he kept replaying the beginning, the laughter, the adventure, the long talks in the car, the way they used to look at him like he mattered. So he kept waiting for that version of their love to return. But over time, he realized he was fighting for a memory, a version that only existed in the first few months, and the person in front of him, now, no longer matched the person in his mind. Still, he hesitated to leave, because if he let go, he'd have to admit it never really was what he needed. He'd have to admit that what kept him there was hope, not happiness. That's the truth no one wants to say out loud. You're not just grieving a relationship. You're grieving a fantasy, the future you built in your mind, the story you told your friends, the someday that never arrived. And that grief, it's real. It comes in waves. You cry not because they were perfect, but because you invested so much time, energy, emotion, and now you have nothing to show for it but exhaustion. But grieving fantasy is part of waking up, part of becoming conscious. Jung would call it withdrawing the projection, taking back the dream you put onto someone else, and reclaiming it for yourself. Because what you miss most isn't them. It's the feeling of being seen, of being loved, of being chosen. But here's the radical truth. You don't need them to have that again. What you gave them, your attention, care, time, forgiveness, was your love, your beauty, your depth. They were just the mirror. But the light came from you. So when you grieve, don't grieve as if you lost everything. Grieve as someone who is coming home, coming back to what is real, to what's within. You are not broken for still loving someone who didn't choose you. You are not foolish for believing in the good. You were just loyal to a vision, a dream. And now you get to let it go. Grieving doesn't mean you failed. It means you stopped pretending. It means you're facing the truth, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. And that truth? It's your doorway back to self-respect, back to emotional clarity, back to the version of you that doesn't need to beg for love anymore. Cry if you have to, journal, scream into your pillow. But don't numb it. Don't spiritual bypass it. Don't tell yourself, it wasn't that bad. Feel it. Because on the other side of that grief, there is power. There is clarity. There is peace. And one day, when you're no longer holding on to what could have been, you'll be ready to receive what actually is. someone real, a love that doesn't require self-erasure, a connection built on mutual effort, not emotional survival. You'll realize you never needed to be saved. You just needed to stop clinging to the sinking ship. You are not grieving because you're weak. You're grieving because you're healing. And that is the most courageous thing you can do. You feel lost. You feel tired. You wonder if something's wrong with you. But hear this, you're not broken. You're waking up. The pain you feel? It's not failure. It's truth knocking at the door. You're starting to see. That's what hurts. Not the breakup. Not the ending. But the clarity. Clarity burns. Because it shows you what you tried to avoid. It shows you where you stayed too long. Where you kept quiet. Where you begged for less than you deserve. You told yourself, it's just a rough patch. They'll change. I need to try harder. But deep down, you knew. You felt it in your gut. In your chest. In the silence between texts. In the way you had to shrink just to keep the peace. That wasn't love. That was survival. You were trying to be enough. For someone who didn't even see your full value. And now, you're done pretending. You're done begging. You're done fixing what was never yours to fix. This is not weakness. This is strength. The quiet kind. The kind that says, I love you, but I choose me. That choice hurts. Of course it does. Because part of you still remembers the good. The early days. The laughs. The softness. But don't confuse memories with reality. Nostalgia is a liar. It edits out the pain. It loops the highs and hides the lows. Let yourself grieve. Not just the person, but the version of you that kept holding on. You thought letting go meant losing. It doesn't. It means healing. It means choosing peace over chaos. It means choosing truth over hope. It means stopping the cycle. Because deep down, you've been here before. Different faces. Same pattern. You gave too much. You waited too long. You lost yourself again. Not anymore. Now you're aware. You see the signs. You feel the shift. You're not chasing. You're not explaining. You're not hoping they'll finally understand. You understand now. That's enough. Awareness is hard. But it's holy. It breaks the loop. It gives you back your power. Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. That was your life. On repeat. Same wounds. Same ache. But now the cycle ends. You're not broken. You're rebuilding. Not back to who you were, but forward to who you're meant to be. No more shrinking. No more silence. No more settling. You're allowed to want more. You're allowed to outgrow. You're allowed to walk away. The right people won't make you feel guilty for growing. You don't need to explain why you're choosing yourself. You just need to do it. You'll feel lonely at first. That's normal. It's the echo of who you used to be. But keep going. The peace will come. So will the clarity. So will the strength. And one day, you'll look back and realize you didn't lose them. You found you. And that's worth everything.